Hello and welcome to Pseudoregalia. This is BioEnchanted, and today we're going to be playing a game I've never really heard of before, but it should be quite interesting. This is post-commentary, and I have edited this fairly judiciously to avoid any wasted time. I do quite like the minimalist intro that just kind of shows you what you need to know. You came into a mirror, there's a lot of people that are dead or in a very bad way. There's mention of a princess as well. Given the whole title of the game being Pseudoregalia, I can only assume, again I've not played this before at all, this is blind run, just guessing from the name of the thing, I'd guess that the princess is probably some kind of a fake princess or someone who's either taken over a throne that's not hers, or maybe she's assuming someone else has done that and is therefore going on the offensive in a crazy way because of that. Either way, with the name Pseudoregalia, I'd assume some kind of a thing involving a phony royalty in some situation, in some sense. I quite like the jumping in this game. It's kind of, it's not quite floaty, but it's also not overly like heavy as well. It's heavy enough to feel like it's easy to land where you need to actually land, but you can jump high enough that it feels like it's satisfying to be able to jump that high. I quite like the game's aesthetic, going for a kind of low poly sort of thing, but with a decent amount of style to it. Like, some of these textures really do remind me of like N64 or PS1 games, although a little bit less warping. Also quite like you can kind of grab onto ledges as well. That's as high as we can go, so let's go in a different direction, shall we? Yeah, this game's kind of, so far at least, it feels like it's a bit of a combination of a puzzle platform with some Dark Souls influences, which we'll see a bit later, but also it reminds me a lot of Ico, with how it starts. With the whole like starting in a dungeon and then doing mostly platforming while exploring a mysterious location. I'm really just making sure there's nothing down there. It's like, I don't know if this game has any collectibles, so I'm just kind of looking down to make sure that there's nothing in pits that I could collect or anything. But here is our first upgrade. I think it's fairly obvious what it allows us to do. I also quite like all these like dropped crosses as well. That's quite fun. It looks like we aren't the first people to get this Dreambreaker. It's just the others never really made it outside this room. Quite foreboding. There's like a giant cross as well that you smack things with. Note the beat attack they mentioned as well to heal yourself. That's something that I figure out later. The important thing right now though is the attack button. And luckily not all of the walls will be that hard to break. That's just a particular outlier. Because that would be quite annoying if the walls were that hard to break, but as you can see, it kind of varies, which of course, it makes it kind of feel like a fairly straightforward sort of a thing, because the walls have different like types of like resistance to the thing. It kind of helps it feel a bit more realistic that some walls are more breakable than others. And of course that mirror at the beginning was only the entry point, it wasn't actually like a bonfire save point situation. Those crystals, very Tomb Raider 1. I think that's probably what it's going for, is a very Tomb Raider kind of aesthetic as well, with the whole exploring mysterious ruins and finding upgrades so you can explore further and things like that. Well, not really so much the upgrades, until you really only got the weapons, but you know, it's aspects of kind of combining a bunch of different things between like Tomb Raider, Ico, and Kingsfield, I guess, that sort of thing. I also quite like that you get quite a bit of air control for the jumping as well. That makes it quite satisfying too. It makes it quite easy to control where you're going. Also, the way the hazards are very bright red, it makes them really pop, which is very handy in a game like this, which otherwise could potentially start blending into itself. That's something I really appreciate. Also, note that big gold thing on the ceiling. We'll be seeing that again later on, with a bit more context. But for now, just remember that it's there, there's just not really much harm to it. Now, I did want to come down here on purpose so I could speak to this person. Apparently there's some undead stuff going on here relating to the princess and then this stuff as well. I'm kind of curious where it's going with that. So let's make our way back up there, shall we? A lot of the bigger redos I will cut out, but that was a really very small one, so I kept that one in. And you have a very mysteriously coloured block, which of course is a shortcut. Which I quite like how it really pops as well, that particular block, so you can tell it's got something important relating to it. And now of course we can far more easily get up there. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something we'd be able to move elsewhere for like a secret or something like that, but no, it's just a shortcut. You never know with these kind of cavern areas when there's going to be like a secret cave or like a wall you can kind of break that you can't really see that's breakable. Because these kind of games often have those kind of secrets, so I'm just checking down there for anything like that. I was quite like how quickly you scale those poles as well. So yeah, all we can do right now is crouch, so we can't really do anything with that because you can't really move while crouching. So let's see what's in this direction, shall we? Again, just want to make sure these aren't breakable because you never know when they're going to hide secrets in them. It's just always good to know what kind of mechanics the game actually has when you're first playing them. I quite like how vibrant these collectibles are as well, these big items. It makes it very obvious when you found something that will be very useful. And now we have quite a satisfying dash attack, which is quite cool. Not so much an attack, but the dash I really like using because it goes such a long distance, it feels quite satisfying to use. Because this game, of course, is all about mobility. Eventually it will be anyway. That's why I bought it, because on Steam it mentioned that it was going to be a game about movement, for the most part, as well as exploration. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of movement upgrades we get. But for now, let's play with our slide attack, shall we? And get onto this massive gauntlet of these guillotines. Luckily we go low enough to avoid them quite easily. It's just quite a fun way of like adding the extra challenge to have so many guillotines there. It's a little bit comical. You know, just making sure nothing else will be missed up here. Because you also, again, you never know when there's going to be a wall you can break that you can't see. Because that's a very common way these games hide secrets. Especially used to be in the PS1 days, so I would not put it past this game to do that. It only takes a few seconds to check as well. I quite like these massive cages as well, these like big prison cells. Definitely gives a sense of foreboding, like there's so many like people that have been kept down here and you're just the first one that managed to go anywhere. Because you weren't put here, you came here on purpose through that mirror. And that seems very kind of obvious as well up there, but I don't know if we'll ever get up there. So we have a couple of ways we can go. That's an obvious way forward, so let's see what's in the other direction and see what we can do there. So I don't know whether we'll get a double jump or whether we'll have to come back down that way or both. But because of the way that is there, and that we never actually find a way through that in this video, I'm assuming these maps are going to get a bit interconnected. But this is a fairly simple one because it's like the opening map, so it's a fairly simple layout for now. And yeah, that previous area where you had to jump on the cage to get up is just showing us that jumping on the cages will be necessary to progress. So of course, you have these cages down here that we can reach from here. And yeah, we can't jump all the way up there, and that's too high. So clearly we need to use those little cages to actually get to the top of this room, which is quite fun. I quite like when games make you use the actual like items in a level as platforms rather than just having it just be the platforms on their own. It adds a little bit of panache to the platforming, makes it a lot more interesting than just being like big blocks you have to jump between. When you have some blocks of actually just actual items. I've always found that quite satisfying. So here we're coming to why I've described this game as a cross between Ico and Dark Souls. This guy. A very obvious boss. So just me practicing the slide to see how well things go. And this is a run that I'm just keeping in to show how badly things can go when you don't know what you're doing. I also quite like the way the boss moves as well. And I also quite like the whole thing where the bosses can kind of knock your weapon out of your hands, so you have to kind of slide to it. I quite like the very stop motion way they move. It's very like the games on PS1 didn't really move like that to that extent, but it gives it a very interesting, distinctive look to it, and it makes it feel slow without feeling sluggish. Like it feels like it gives the attacks a lot more time to avoid them, but without it feeling like the game's slowing down too much. Like I quite like the whole stop motion slow down method of doing things because it's a natural way of making the attacks feel a bit slower than they'd otherwise not would do. So yeah, let's cut to the actual successful one, shall we? So I quite like how these boss fights flow as well, so at least this one, because of the way the dash works. You can really kind of get past him in a very satisfying way. And I also quite like that it shows when you've done these amount of damage to them, not by a health bar or anything, just by having them do that little animation. That's what makes it feel very Dark Souls or like Bloodborne to me, because the bosses having those little animations they do, where they suddenly get harder. A little bit Zelda as well, but not as much. This guy's not got that many attacks. I also quite like the music here as well. But yeah, here's where I kind of learn how healing works. This is kind of the big stepping point with me actually managing to get past this guy, is knowing how to heal. It's very similar to Hollow Knight, just kind of keep hitting them to get like energy, and then you can hold the B button and use that energy to consume it to heal yourself. I was like, it feels like different layers of this boss fight are adding different layers to the soundtrack as well. That's always fun. Gives him like Metal Gear Rising vibes. And there we go, defeated him. So let's finally get that key and move on, shall we? But yeah, I have a feeling there might be something up there if we can ever get back here with a high enough jump to get up there. It might just be a platform that's got nothing on it, just there for decoration. It doesn't look like there is anything up there, because a lot of the collectibles in this game so far have been very obvious. I'm not going to put it again past the game to not have anything up there. So let's use this key to finally make progress, shall we? And yeah, we're back at the top of this room. So before we actually leave this area, let's see what we can do to get to that one ledge we saw before that couldn't get to. You can see it right there. So this is one thing I quite like about the way the falling in this game works. You have very good air control. So that makes it relatively easy to just kind of find what you're looking for. And of course that was part of a health upgrade. I don't know whether it's half or a third. We might have to fill in the middle part as well. But it's something. And here's just something I'm showing off on the way back up again. You can actually break that golden thing. It's actually an enemy you can kill. It's just at the time it was in a position where we couldn't hit it. So here I'm just checking for any kind of... There's no map at the moment, but there is that big area that's kind of blank in the menu. But let's finally go up that subtle slope, shall we, and see what's up there. Also making sure there's nothing else up as well that we can't see. We might end up falling down there from above, but it doesn't look like it. So here we have the second main level, Castle Salsa. So let's get to a point where we can stop. Thank you for joining me. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. And also check out my Patreon as well for support me, help me make more videos like this. I quite like how different Castle Salsa looks, and of course, very obvious death juice there, let's avoid that. So here we reach another NPC. And a save point. So I'll see you next time as we explore Castle Salsa. Thank you for joining me, and goodbye.